The global food crisis set to reduce our health span has already begun. Due to lack of clarity and accurate information, we humans are now consuming substances the Mother Nature didn't design us to handle. And as a result, our hormones have changed, and our biochemistry is responding by creating men with protruding bellies and women with complicated health issues. Our quality of life is declining faster, and the age at which we get sick with metabolic diseases is getting lower. This situation is not entirely our fault. We have been confused and distracted by many convenient, tasty choices and options, wrapped in beautiful packages in our supermarket shelves or presented to us in a fancy restaurant menu. But all hope is not lost for those willing to pay attention. Stay tuned to learn how to navigate this crisis, lose weight, and preserve your health and well-being. In this episode, we will go through these 4 points to understand why and how our body makes and stores fats, the reasons we should care and do something about it, and finally, we will learn some simple steps on how to use the bacteria in our body to help us burn fat, lose weight, and achieve optimal health. Before we get started, let me give you my key points. If you have a big belly, visceral fat, or fat accumulation in any part of your body, then this certainly means you may have a condition called insulin resistance that is causing your body to easily make and store excess glucose as fats. The reason men are growing big bellies and women are storing fats all over is because we're overdosing on some nutrients and consuming things not intended for the human body. As a result, our hormones have changed and stuck in a fat storage mode. To reset our hormones, reverse insulin resistance, and lose weight fast, we must identify those nutrients and anti-nutrients and eliminate or reduce our exposures to them. Then we need to take 3 simple steps to repair the damages that has been done over the years. We need to use the 2 groups of bacteria within our body, the gut microbiome and the mitochondria, to reset our hormones and lose weight fast with minimum effort. These bacteria, the microbiome and the mitochondria, plays a very important role in regulating your metabolism, and we want to use them to speed up your calorie burning and weight loss in the most efficient and effective way possible. To activate these internal organelles and microorganisms and speed up fat burning and weight loss process, we need to provide them with the right bioactive molecules in the form of nutrients and supplements. We will use 1 bioactive soup you can make at home, 3 bioactive antioxidant-rich drinks, and 8 metabolic support supplements to get this job done. The mechanism of action is very simple. These bioactive soup and drinks, along with these class of supplements, will rev up your mitochondria and increase their glucose and calorie burning capacity. Your mitochondria will replicate itself and make more babies and copies of itself. And these new copies will demand and use up calories in the cells very quickly. The microbiome mechanism of action is very direct. By eating up some of your calories, they also reproduce and grow in population, and then send out health-promoting molecules called short-chain fatty acids to help modulate your metabolism and burn calories faster. Insulin resistance. Basically, when you eat something, the food is supposed to get into your bloodstream as glucose and then into your cells to make energy. But for some reasons, which we will learn about in this episode, your body starts to reject the food you love to eat. Then insulin takes that food in the form of glucose and stores it as fat. The question is, why is the body behaving this way for some people? In the next 5 to 10 minutes, you will get a better understanding of this phenomenon that is causing men to grow big bellies and some women to store fats everywhere in their body. Let's examine the root causes, recipes for metabolic syndrome. This is how we humans are disrupting our hormones around the globe. My American and European friends are doing it with the standard American diet, the SAD, the ultra-processed foods, the flours, the sweetened beverages. My friends in India and the Middle East are changing their hormones with flours, biryani overdose, and sweets. And our people in China and the Far East are doing it with rice, hidden sugars, chemical additives, and aflatoxins hidden in their bottled sauces. These hormonal-changing foods can become toxic to the human body when consumed several times daily over a number of years. These foods spikes our blood glucose and insulin very quickly, and if overdosed over time, it changes our hormones into a fat storage mode. Now let's take a look at what happens when we swallow these simple sugars. This is an example of how simple carbs creates fats. Here we see Mr. Biggs on the left and Miss Yoga on the right. Mr. Biggs eats simple carbohydrates in the form of bread and white rice of about 1200 calories. Miss Yoga eats the same amount of calories, 1200, from a complex carbohydrate, i.e. taro roots, sweet potatoes, and plantains. Mr. Biggs digests 100% of his calories in his small intestine because the rice and bread has no fibers in them, so the food is quickly absorbed in the form of glucose into his bloodstream. Miss Yoga, on the other hand, digests her fiber-rich foods in two parts of her digestive systems. Her small intestine takes the glucose, and the gut microbiome in her large intestine takes the fibers and eat them up. So, for the sake of simplicity, we assume 50% of the calories in her food is absorbed in her small intestine, and the remaining 50% in the form of fiber goes to her gut microbiome to feast on. Now let's take a quick look at inside the blood vessels of Mr. Biggs and Miss Yoga to see what these sugars are doing. Some of us use our food to make energy, and people with insulin resistance use their food to make fats, and there's no luck involved in that. Just simple human physiological processes depending on the input and our metabolic health statuses. As you can see in this diagram, Miss Yoga on the right side here is insulin sensitive, meaning that her cells are accepting insulin, the keys, to open the cell doors for glucose to go into a cell for energy production. So her pancreas is releasing and using less insulin to get glucose into her cells. And the food she's eating doesn't quickly turn into sugar in her small intestine as shown in the previous slides. Some of the carbohydrates she ate in the form of fiber moves down to her large intestine for her gut microbiome to feed on. This is why she has less glucose, sugars, swimming around in her bloodstream, and less insulin, keys, is needed to get these sugars into her cells. Now let's compare Miss Yoga with Mr. Biggs here. Mr. Biggs, and for those individuals who indulge in simple sugars, i.e. simple carbohydrate foods, their blood sugar rises very quickly and gets flooded with glucose and insulin. Their pancreas is trying hard to compensate by pumping out more insulin, many keys, to get the sugars out of their bloodstream into the cells. But unfortunately, the cells are already full and overwhelmed with glucose. As a result, the cell shuts the door and changes the locks. Mr. Biggs' insulin, the keys, are no longer able to open the cell door for sugars to go in, and the blood vessel is flooded with more insulin and sugars. Mr. Biggs is now starving and using the sugar in his bloodstream to make fats instead of energy. And the primary location for his fat deposits is in his midsection. Hence, his belly continues to protrude and grow bigger. The diagram here shows the amount of sugar, glucose, and the insulin, the keys, in Mr. Biggs' bloodstream compared to that of Miss Yoga with less glucose and less insulin in her blood vessel. Excess sugars and insulin in the bloodstream is what causes damage in the blood vessel and set the stage for metabolic syndrome, which we will discuss shortly. Now let's take a look at the road ahead. Why should we want to do something about this? Mr. Biggs is now on the metabolic syndrome highway because of the excess sugar and insulin swimming around and damaging his blood vessels throughout his body. On this road is metabolic syndrome, which is a cluster of medical conditions that increases the risk of type 2 diabetes, heart disease, stroke, and poor quality of life in general. Insulin resistance and high blood pressure are the first stages of these disease processes, then followed by fat deposits in the body or high blood pressure, elevated cholesterol level, and excess abdominal fat for men and women. There are also memory issues, headaches, frequent urination, PCOS in women, and the list of health complications goes on. But not necessarily in this order. Any of these diseases can happen at any time for individuals on this metabolic disaster pathway. This insulin resistance metabolic disease can also manifest in skinny people without the fat accumulation around their bellies. Skinny people with insulin resistance can progress to type 2 diabetes silently. They get blood vessel damage, high cholesterol, eye issue, brain issues, and heart diseases. Mr. Biggs and anyone with visceral fat needs to change course immediately. And the good news is most of these diseases can be reversed quickly with minimum effort if addressed early. Overcoming the obstacles. The question is, where are we going to get the energy and motivation to get started with making the necessary changes? The willpower we need to take action, a sense of purpose, overcoming the addiction to ultra-processed, tasty foods and simple carbohydrates foods craving. To help with these potential roadblocks, information and data will be the key to informed decision-making process. I would recommend individuals struggling with visceral fat and fat accumulation in any part of their body to perform these lab tests. The CRP, ESR, IL-6, and uric acid will give you information on your inflammation status. The fasting insulin, HbA1c, fasting glucose will give you information on how well your body is managing sugar and your diabetes status. The thyroid panel will give you insight into your hormonal balancing status. And finally, the ultrasound abdomen will allow you to see if there are any physical damage, i.e. cysts, lumps, and stones, in your vital organs such as the liver, the pancreas, the gallbladder, abdomen, and your kidneys. The results of these tests will provide you with some insight into your metabolic health status. Psychologically, whenever you encounter any of the above obstacles, such as doubts and uncertainties, you can always remember your blood work report as your motivation tool. These lab tests can also serve as your health report card for monitoring your progress to see if what you're doing is working at the cellular level. Of course, in addition to standing on a scale and in front of the mirror. Solutions. Before we add something, we need to first identify and remove the simple carbohydrates that's spiking our blood glucose and insulin. Here are some example substitute carbohydrates. We can swap out these simple carbs for complex carbs to help feed our gut microbiome and slow down the speed of digestion and glucose spike. Even these complex carbohydrates should be consumed in moderation. If you are unsure which of your favorite food to let go, then simply doing a blood sugar test at home with a glucose monitor before and after you eat that meal will help guide your decision-making process. You can pause now and take a screenshot. If any of this is making sense to you, then you can also go ahead and click the like and subscribe button. Solution number 2, the drinks with bioactive molecules. How these drinks works is very simple. They stimulate 2 vital organs in your body, your mitochondria and your microbiome. These 2 types of bacteria and microorganisms will help you burn calories and lose those stubborn belly fats with minimum effort. The microbiome cocktail drink contains several prebiotic fibers that you cannot digest in your small intestine. These fibers and polyphenols will pass through to your large intestine to feed your gut microbiome. The billions of microbes living in your large intestine will feast on these fibers and then reward you with short-chain fatty acid as discussed earlier. Those short-chain fatty acids are called butyrate, acetate, and propionate. The butyrate will help energize and repair your gut in addition to other health benefits these molecules provide. They will also signal the rest of your body and help regulate your metabolism and burn more calories and more fat faster. The gut microbiome was discussed in details in another episode, but for now, at a high level, the take-home message here is that these drinks will help you feed the microbes, which in return will help you control your appetite and you lose weight as a side effect. The Hunger Strike drink, on the other hand, is packed with healthy fats and fibers to keep you satiated all day with just 1 glass of this drink. The fibers will also help feed your good gut microbiome to support your fat burning process. If you're unable to digest the high fats in this drink, you can take some ox bile supplements or TODCA to support your gallbladder and help you digest the healthy fats in the drinks. The cellular energy drink is rich in sulforaphane for your mitochondria to burn more glucose for energy. This drink, along with microbiome drink, will feed your gut microbiome and power up the mitochondria inside your cell to help you use up more calories quickly. You can go ahead and watch the Mitochondria podcast for details on how the mitochondria makes energy to power you up all day long. For those with sensitive stomach, I would recommend you cook or steam all cruciferous vegetables marked in asterisks in the ingredient list. You can pause and take a screenshot of the prep instructions now. The bioactive soup. This organ meat and bone broth soup contains many potent bioactive molecules. These molecules will neutralize any free radicals, inflammatory toxins that may leak out of your fat cells as you start to melt away those fats. The soup also contains key minerals and vitamins to support the mitochondria within your cell and turn them into fat-burning machines even while you're sitting down doing nothing. The curry powder contains curcumins and black pepper, a powerful mitochondrial compounds. They will get into your cell to rev up your mitochondria into a fat-burning mode. You can pause now and take a screenshot of these ingredients list. The metabolic support supplements. We want to optimize our metabolism with adequate nutrient that includes supplementation. Here we have berberine, which will help flush out excess sugar from the bloodstream. Many research studies can be found in the National Library of Medicine, the PubMed website, on the many benefits of taking berberine. And then we have vitamin B complex, magnesium, and zinc. These are necessary for the body to burn those excess glucose swimming around in the bloodstream and make energy. Vitamin D3 and K2 play a role in cells' ability to function at its optimal capacity. Vitamin K2 is added here to take advantage of the calcium transport into the bone and teeth. This is why we always want to bring in vitamin K2 whenever we take vitamin D3. The R-alpha lipoic acid and the N-acetylcysteine will perform the role of neutralizing any oxidative stress in the cells to help the cell mitochondria burn more calories efficiently. And the NAC and acetylcysteine is my go-to antioxidant because it is the precursor to glutathione, a powerful anti-inflammatory molecule that will help neutralize any toxic substances that could leak out into the bloodstream as you gradually melt your fats away. The letter R stands for the real stuff when buying R-alpha lipoic acid, not the synthetic version. One more thing that we can add here to speed up this process of fat burning and insulin resistance reversal is the intermittent fasting. I would recommend to add intermittent fasting to this protocol if you are able to do so, restricting your eating window to 7 hours between noon and 7 p.m. Skipping breakfast is the most easiest way to do intermittent fasting for those working a desk job that does not require any physical strength activity in the first part of the day. Intermittent fasting will help flush out all toxins, reset your hormone faster, and accelerate your weight loss. Intermittent fasting will also help get your body into a state of metabolic flexibility, which is being able to switch between using glucose for energy or burning fats as ketones for energy. Once you reach this stage, you become untouchable and the insulin resistance is reversed. Wrapping up, we want to perform some lab tests to check the current status of our metabolic health. We want to understand that our body will process simple sugars differently compared to complex carbohydrate. We want to identify and avoid simple sugars of all forms and learn to recognize them in the supermarket and restaurants. We want to bring in some bioactive molecules our body needs to thrive. We can drink it or chew on them. Supplement accordingly and then do intermittent fasting if you're able to do so. To speed up the process, reset your hormone. Now you have the ingredients, you can go ahead and take some actions. Wishing you a good metabolic health.